Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a very special episode. Joining me today is one of the most decorated fullbacks in the women's game. Starting her professional career at Manchester United, she has become one of the most prominent names in the WSL side, helping the Red Devils become FA Cup champions and FA Cup runner-ups. Even though she's 24, she has 2 World Cups and 2 Olympic Games under her name, including an Olympic gold medal with the Canadian women's national team. She has represented her nation since she was 16 years old, and 50 caps is right around the corner. It's none other than a very special Jayde Riviere. Jayde, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I know you're over in Spain, but the talk of the town back home here in Canada has been about the Canada US hockey game for the Final Four. Has that come up at camp at all or not so much?
Yeah, it has a bit. Obviously we would support as much as we can from abroad, but it's come up a little bit here.
Are you a hockey fan at all or it's always been soccer?
It's always been soccer for me, but I mean I'm not opposed to watching hockey or anything like that, but mainly soccer for me personally.
Well, good. You've stuck to soccer. You're giving us good soccer highlights. Let's talk a little bit about how you started with the sport and kind of got into it.
Yeah, I started playing soccer when I was 3 years old. My dad started playing, or he was playing soccer back home in his home country in Dominica. And me being an only child, I had a lot of energy when I was younger, so my parents decided to throw me into sport, and I guess soccer was the natural pick. And then from there, yeah, kind of just like all meshed in one. Played for a couple of clubs, local clubs. My dad trained me a lot separately, kind of behind the scenes. And I think from there, it kind of opportunities came playing for like Team Ontario, played for the Rex program, played for the youth national team and the national team, and guess now United, and the rest has kind of been history.
Did you enjoy it, or I guess with your parents' goal of just wanting to get as much energy out of you, you'd leave training a little too tired?
I'd say when I was younger, it was a lot harder because my dad would make me train after like my training sessions, or I would train before I actually go to training. So like I was doing more than what the average player my age was doing, and I never really understood why I was doing more. But as I got older and I started to appreciate the reasonings, and the time that my dad, took out of his daily schedule to be able to coach me, I realized that he had seen potential in me. And that was the reason why he kind of pushed me the way that he did. So as I got older and appreciated it more, I did like it a lot more.
Any favorite drills, sort of on those one-on-one when you were with your dad on the field?
Um, At the time when I was younger, I was a midfielder, so a lot of it was shooting drills. So I did enjoy a lot of those, but they were quite repetitive, the drills that I would do. My dad was very keen on doing the same drills over and over again, and he never really switched it up because he thought that if you had to master something, it was the fundamentals. So there's times where like, I didn't enjoy training, and there's times that I did, like I said, as got older and started to appreciate it a bit more. But definitely the shooting drills would be the more fun of the bunch.
Well, maybe we might start seeing more of a striker Jade in you here and there every now and then when these
I
drills.
don't know about that.
I think there was potential, like you said, and you got opportunities with Team Ontario and even Team Canada just later, sort of in your teenage years. What was the decision like to go to Michigan and sort of head over there for your university career?
Yeah, to be honest, when I started receiving scholarship opportunities, I was still quite young. I was like 13, 14 at that time, and my being an only child, I didn't really have a sibling to, kind of go through that process. So like my parents would say we were the guinea pigs for that. So a lot of it was handed off mainly from my parents. They kind of depict out of 28 schools what school I was going to go to. And their biggest thing for their child was to have a school that was very prestigious in their academics, but their athletics as well. So when they came to narrowing down all the schools and doing a couple of visits, and the rules have changed now versus back then, everything is out of pocket. So we only visit a handful of schools, and we narrowed it down to two top schools. And ultimately, when we went to visit Michigan, we fell in love with the campus. Also, the proximity from Michigan to home to Toronto, it's not that far. So for me, being an only child, it was very important that my parents could come and watch games when they could. And then their academic excellence is one of the best public schools. And then their athletics at the time was decently well, but like I wanted to go to a team where I could help improve it, and we did so during my years there. So those were kind of the criteria in terms of narrowing down a school for best for me at least.
It sounds like you really quite appreciate being home, and just being with family because, like you've mentioned, you're kind of an only child and that's your family circle. Was it difficult to move away, and sort of kind of experience that on your own in Michigan and build your own soccer time alone away from family?
I would say when I moved away from Michigan, it actually wasn't that bad just because I had already lived on my own earlier. When I was 16, I moved to Vancouver to play for the Vancouver Whitecaps. So that was probably the hardest time for me because I was still young. I had kind of already just switched high schools to another high school, and then I was switching to a whole new place. And when you think of Canada, like you never really know how big Canada is until you're like Vancouver's a 5 hour plane ride away. It's not a driving distance. So I had to go live on my own there, live with a billet family, like make new friends, go to a new school and follow a regimen over there. That was very hard transitional wise. I missed my parents a lot, but then it helped me set up my life for even now, like being in Manchester, being like now a 9 hour plane ride away from my family. It's easier in a sense. Of course, I'm gonna miss my family, but it's definitely helped set up those moments. So Michigan wasn't as bad. It was actually nicer in a way because they could just hop in a car and drive over for the weekend. But yeah, that moment when I was 16 definitely was pivotal for, I guess, the rest of my career.
Well, it was a stellar time in the US that led you to end up in Manchester, representing Canada. I think there was a lot of eyes on you. There was a lot of talk of where Jayde Riviere was going over for her professional career. You grew up as a Manchester United fan, but what was sort of that process of looking around and seeing where you wanted to sign your first professional contract and it being United?
Yeah, I never really thought I would play for United. It's one of those things where like, I fell in love with the club because my it was my dad's favorite club, and that was something that we really bonded over was, every Sunday we'd sit in front of the TV and we would watch United play, and that just ended up being my love as much as it was his. We never once thought I would play for the actual club, and it didn't ever really cross my mind to be fair either. So then when Michigan was coming towards the end and we were looking towards, what do we want to do after, I always knew I wanted to play in the WSL. I was always had eyes on playing in England because I think it's one of, if not the best league for women's football, and it's constantly a growing nation over there. So me going over there, once again, not having an idea where I wanted to go, the process, I couldn't really tell you. It was more of like, we'll go through the 4 years and figure it out. But then a team like Manchester United came knocking around my like third year there, and it was a no-brainer for us to kind of to set off for that. Obviously it was a difficult time because I was also dealing with like surgery at the time, but for me, I spoke with, my staff at Michigan who were so supportive with it. I've spoke with my parents numerous times, and an opportunity like that doesn't come often, let alone for someone my age and coming straight out of college. So we never looked back, and now I am where I am.
It's fair to say there was a lot of excitement heading over when you did sign, but like you mentioned, you were dealing with a surgery and sort of rehabbing from that. What was the settling in process like?
Yeah, it was hard because obviously, if you were going to go to a team, you normally go healthy. And for me, I was on the back of my rehab. So I didn't know what that was going to look like. I didn't know what their rehab process was like. I didn't know if that was going to be detrimental to teams, kind of like having, if you were like a broken toy, like what use are you going to get for that? So for me personally, United took a chance on me because, surgery, as much as it can be helpful, you never know how you're going to be afterwards. And they took a chance on me, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I forever try to repay them in terms of show my appreciation for the club for being able to do that. Like I was like 23, I think, when I first signed. So like it was taking a chance on a young player who's, never played at the international level, never played pro, was coming from a college system. And for me, yeah, mentally, I feel like it was a challenge to be able to go into an environment and going injured and not being able to, be able to show my skill set or what they thought of me. I was sidelined for that. But one thing about me is I'm always going to be open to learning. So I was thankful that I had some great players in my position at United to be able to watch and kind of shadow, so that when my time did come, I would be able to hit the ground running.
You've had a great season so far. What aspects of your
Thank
game do you feel like you've improved on most since playing regularly and sort of becoming that starter in the fullback area?
you. I think confidence, honestly, is one of the things. I think for me, I always knew that I had potential. I think it was just about when I was able to consistently, one, be available because I always dealt with injuries, and two, be able to actually show people what I could do. Once I started to get a lot of games under my belt, I think I naturally just gained confidence through that, obviously through my teammates as well. And since then, I've kind of been able to put everything aside and just be able to play freely. And I know for me, I play the best when I do play freely, and I'm not thinking about any outside things that could come in and mishap that. So for me personally, confidence was the biggest thing that I grew over time. And I'm thankful now, like people like you, are able to see that I have potential and having a good season, and I want to keep that going for the rest of my years at United.
I'm glad you bring up the frustration of injuries because I think that probably was reflected even with just folks watching if they want to watch your brilliance on the pitch. I think the series of niggling injuries is something you've spoke about and sort of it's been something that you've dealt with since your youth. I mean, how difficult is it to once you're healthy, you're sort of back, and then there's a small niggle of injuries you're dealing with. You miss a Canada camp, you miss a few United games, but then you're back on. Like, how is that struggle of back and forth of just wanting to stay healthy?
Yeah, I think it's actually one of the most frustrating things any athlete can go through. And one thing about it is a lot of it isn't preventable. It's just kind of what comes with the love of the sport. It's a love-hate relationship that you have. I think what was really hard for me when I moved to England and, being at a big club, having the fan base that it did, was seeing the social media aspect of it. And, like, she's always injured or when is she going to be available? Like those are all things that can really be detrimental on a player and negative on a player. And for me, like now learning, not looking at social media and all that, like I obviously want to be on the pitch as much as the fans want to see me on the pitch. I never once wanted injuries. It's just something that comes with it. Could be the way that I play. I tend to get fouled a lot in games. Like I pick up a lot of niggles and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how the cards are dealt for me. But the mentality aspect of it is what I've been focusing on. Like, how do I overcome it? Because I know it's going to happen. So if it's, making sure that from a mental point, I'm always just in a positive headspace and knowing that, these things happen and it's happened not just to me, it happens to multiple players. Um, it's just the nature of the sport. So,
You're actually right. You are one of the most fouled players in the WSL last season and already this season. How do you
mm,
keep your cool when you're just constantly getting hit by a few players that can get past you?
um, that's an interesting question. I never really thought about how do I keep my cool. Um, I think it's just a part of the game, isn't it? It's a very physical game. It's a contact sport. Like that's ultimately what it is. And I'm never going to complain about getting fouled because it is what it is. But ultimately I wouldn't like to get fouled. That's not something that I go into games thinking like, oh, how many fouls can I get? But yeah, I mean, it's a part of the sport. It happens. It can be frustrating at times, but again, like I said, it's a contact sport, so it's something that you're just gonna have to stick up with. Hopefully, I won't be the most fouled player this season, and I can continue to play without getting any niggles or anything. But if it happens, it happens. It's the sport.
Hopefully that is a stat that changes. You're right. With a
Yeah.
fan base that is a big, huge United fan base, fans started calling you Agent Jade after Simi Iwujo joined United. Can you confirm or deny if you played an agent role with that?
I did not play an agent role in that, and I did not know that was actually a thing. This is my first time hearing that, actually.
Well, good. That means you've stayed away from social media. But talk to me about having a Canadian teammate join you over at United.
Yeah, it's been good. Simi and I have been we've gotten really close through that. Obviously she was a United fan as well, so it was really nice to it's always nice to see someone who, supports the club actually play for the club. I think is really a 360 moment that you have. For her, I think I'm trying to just be a soundboard and be like in a big sister role because I've been in that position where you come to a team and you're very new. It's your first pro contract. You want to impress everybody and you're trying to take on a million things at once. And you actually tend to overlook the success and accomplishment that you kind of just achieved in a way. So, for the first 6 months or so, the first season really, like it's more about for her just soaking in the moment. Like her first game, like debut was at like Old Trafford. Like how many people get to say that? But sometimes as a young player, you don't even think of that because you think about I need to play good, I need to solidify my spot, I need to impress my players, I need to impress the coach. But like sometimes it's like you just gotta take a breather and realize you played your first game for your favorite club at Old Trafford. Like, how many people can ever say that or cross that off their bucket list? So for me, it's just being a soundboard for her. Hopefully, she gets a lot more minutes under her belt. That will come eventually, and just keeping her level-headed. And if she needs anything, she at least knows that there's someone there for her.
Sounds like I don't want to say taking a leadership role because
Mm.
there's a few kind of older than you that have been at the club a little longer, but the club
Mhm.
in some way continues to push for more, and you've been one of the integral players that have helped it push for more, winning the FA Cup, Champions League qualifiers. What's the mindset of the team kind of heading into every new season where you're looking to push for more and hit new heights?
Yeah, I mean, being at a huge club, like ultimately from the higher up, their biggest accomplishment every season is to win trophies. And that's what the club wants to do, and that's what fuels us. Winning the FA Cup was like a little taste of that. And now we are the FA Cup champions that people want to take that cup from us. And we want to be in the Champions League. We want to be contesting for those trophies. So every season, our target is how do we become the best team? And that will never change. And yes, I think for me, you're seeing United has a younger team. You're seeing them invest a lot into the youth, which is huge for the success and the trajectory of the club. I'm very grateful that myself is included into that and that, extending the contract was something United wanted to do because to me that seems like they want to have me in their short to long-term future. So whatever role I play in that, I'm grateful for that. But I think ultimately as a club, we want to win trophies. We want to retain the Manchester United name, and the depths of what that means to people when they hear it.
A name that is connected with trophies at Manchester United is Casey Stoney, who you are working with for this first camp this time around. How excited are you to work with her, and how's it been, I'd say, the last 2, 3 days that you've kind of gone onto the pitch with her?
Yeah, I was really excited when I heard that she was announced. I think my Manchester United team was more excited for me because they obviously have worked with her firsthand, so they knew the qualities that she brought from a coach perspective. So for me, I was really excited to just kind of see what she has to offer. She was once a player as well, which I think is so important because she can connect with a lot of us, especially the ones overseas, who play in the WSL on a more personal level. And even though it's been 2 to 3 days with her, you can just see how knowledgeable she is as a coach. She's very front-footed in everything that she does. She's very straightforward with everything, and I think that that is a positive refresher for us to be able to see that, she's come in and she wants to win a World Cup right off the bat. And she's like, what do we do from now to then to get to that point? And she's already hitting the ground running in that aspect. But we've also been able to see how she is like characteristic wise off of the pitch. And she's actually a very cool person to be around. And, I think as the camps go on, she'll be integrated into our culture a lot more. And we'll be able to see more of that side of her. But in terms of an actual coach, I'm very excited to see what she's able to bring to the team and kind of help us reach new heights.
Early preps for the World Cup, but at 24, you've already been to two World Cups, two Olympics. I think when people look at your resume, they're like, she must be at least 27. You're far from that. What's it like being to represent Canada from such a young age and do it consistently at a high level?
Um, I guess the word that comes to mind is obviously kind of just honor, really. You don't want to ever not honor the badge because not a lot of people get to wear it. So I think for me, I was very grateful and honored to be able to come in at a young age. I came to the senior team when I was 16, and to still be here is a blessing. Despite all the injuries, I'm still on this team, so that's a bonus in itself. But no, I think you've seen our team kind of go from having such amazing veterans on the team that really did pave the pathway for us. Now, in this year, hand over their jersey and, leave it in a better place than they found it. And I think now we're in that moment of having a new generation of players and finding a new culture in our team. And we have new veterans ultimately naturally on the team now. So we're really finding ourselves. And I think it's an interesting transition. And then throwing in a new coach at the same time, there's a lot of things that are going on. But one thing about our team is we've always been adaptable to whatever we've been thrown at us, and we've been, hit with a lot of things in the past year and so. So we've ultimately always rose above it. So I'm excited to still be a part of that and to see what our team can do for the next couple of years.
50 caps is right around the corner. Do you have a memorable game that you've had representing Canada?
Um, no, I've never been asked this, but I think if I was to put one on it, I would say the gold medal match at the Olympics would definitely be a memorable moment. I didn't like play a significant amount, but I think just seeing on the backhand of that what it did for our nation was like you can't put that into words. Coming home to people that like you didn't even know watched women's football, now all of a sudden rooting for women's football. Like that was the most defining moment in my current career that I could say was absolute pivotal just to be a part of it. Whether I played 5 or 10 minutes of that game or if I didn't play at all, like knowing how much winning a gold medal did for young girls in Canada, let alone the sport to grow in Canada. And now we have a league in Canada. Like you would have never predicted those things.
Do we have a word on which NSL team you're going to be supporting?
Um, I would have to say AFC Toronto just because I'm from there. Yeah, I would have to go for them because that's my hometown. So, but ultimately, I want the success for the entire of the league. So, I'll be watching all the time. I'm hopefully hoping to come back in the summer and maybe watch a game or two, if my schedule allows me. So, I would really like to see how it kicks off, and hopefully, it's a big success. And we'll be able to see a lot of new generational talent come through that maybe got overlooked, because we never had a league of our own.
AFC Toronto's just got a new fan. Jade, a final question for you and a fun one here. If you were to build a Manchester United teammate from three Canadian teammates, you're kind of molding your perfect teammate. Who would that
Okay.
be and what would it look like?
So I'm making a teammate and using three of my
Canadian
current.
team. Yes.
Okay. Ooh. Um, okay, I'd probably put like Vanessa in there because of her aerial presence and dominance. I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
need one of every. A midfielder, I would probably pick Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
And then up top, I would probably pick Liv. I would mold them all into one player. Yeah,
That's a wicked United player.
I think that's a good player. Yeah.
Jade, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Best of luck, hopefully getting a 50 very soon, and with the rest of the United season this season. No nagging injuries, hopefully either.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
If you enjoyed that, make sure you subscribe, like, and follow for more very, very similar content to see more up and coming Canadian talent that is going to be happening right here at home in Canada. The NSL is launching in April. The NSL is the Northern Super League, which is Canada's first professional league. Myself and the NSL have partnered up for a 12 episode exclusive podcast series, meaning every single week you're going to get an exclusive interview with a figure. So it could be sporting director, a coach, a player that is going to be in the NSL inaugural season, so you can get to know them a little bit more. As always, to stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. And I will see you later.